There are certain events throughout the year that I think should be all hands on deck,
Mm-hmm.
like kids camp, VBS, even big worship nights and stuff where the whole church is gathering, where everybody on staff should feel a sense of ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think there are things that happen throughout the year where you can really breed this thinking of we all work on this together.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Glass House. We, this summer, have been doing something a little different. We've been doing this thing called 10 and 10, which I don't know why we call it that because it's not really 10 and 10. It's me talking for a minute and then Lynley chimes in on a topic that she does not know about, nor has she seen.
Nope.
So this is me springing something on you and then we banter about it.
I love surprises.
I know that you do. And I have another one for you today.
Oh, no.
This is our fourth and final installment of these 10 and 10s.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I think you're going to like this one.
Yeah.
Recently, Lynley and I were at a restaurant that was taking forever. And it was one of those, we were at the SBC. Remember the Mexican place? Where we were literally sitting there for 90 minutes waiting for Mexican food?
Well, they did get shut down by the
Health department?
Yeah.
Only to bring the food. Only to bring the food and say, sorry, we got shut down by the health department, but here's your food.
Enjoy.
You know what? We didn't get sick.
No, that was great. It's good.
The Lord sustained us. But while we were sitting there, we were both grumpy. I was like, we need to talk about something that would maybe get our minds off our hunger. And we started chatting about staff culture and how in every environment we've been in, we have seen the staff culture as kind of the nucleus of the cell. And if the nucleus is healthy, the rest of the cell is also healthy. And I asked you that day, I was like, what do you think have been some of the guiding principles that we've used that have worked for us in creating a healthy staff culture? And you started rattling off some, and I started rattling off some, and then I just opened up my notes app, and I was like, we just made a list. So I typed that out, and I thought it would be fun to talk through this because I think there's a lot of people out there that are always looking for ways to improve their staff culture, and this is what's worked for us. So the saying that we often use at Lifeway, culture is created by the positive behaviors we celebrate and the negative behaviors we tolerate. So if you want a healthy staff culture, you have to explicitly state the values that you're going to uphold and then reward people for embodying those and then address situations where people are not. But these are the 6 guiding principles that you and I came up with. So number 1, direct communication. Here's what we mean by that. We commit to addressing disagreements directly and respectfully with each other. We avoid gossip and indirect conversations. So why don't we just stop with that one and just talk for a second about that, and then we'll go on for the other ones.
Sure.
Where do you see problems in staff, whether it's church staff or even Lifeway staff, that you've observed where...
Or all staff.
Yeah, where this becomes an issue? Anything come to mind?
I mean, I think there's so many things that come to mind, but I mean, eventually, most at the top of the list is indirect conversations, and even, this happened this morning. You got a text from someone that says, "Hey, I'm writing a book. Would Lifeway be interested in publishing it?"
Which I get all the time.
All the time. I get them as well. Well, that's a perfect example of that's actually not the appropriate. You're not the appropriate person. They need to go through the chain of commands of publishing, because you cannot decide who all gets published based on who your friends are. And so I think this happens all the time, indirect conversations. I mean, I know it happens with me. I know I've done it before. Hey, did you know that so-and-so did this? Instead of going straight to the person. And so I think you and I try to actually lead healthy in that manner of not going to the side person, but going straight to the person that it needs to have the conversation. But I think you have done that before. Like you've said to someone, I know you have several times, thanks for sharing this with me. Have you gone to that person first? Well, no, I'm scared to go to that person. Well, you have to go to that person first before you come to me. I mean, that's biblical.
And I think this is where you just nailed it. This is where a lot of toxicity happens in churches or any organization where a person is allowed to continue to complain about someone that they're not speaking to. I mean, There's stories that are told of church staffs where there's 2 staff people, they haven't spoken in years.
And yet they work somewhat on the same team.
Yeah. And the real issue is somebody at the top is not paying attention to that and needs to be addressing that. So direct communication. The only caveat I would say to this is there have been times when I have felt like I should directly say something to someone, but wise people around me have told me not to. Because that person may be going through a season where they just can't endure another criticism, or it's not the right timing. But just because I see something wrong doesn't mean I always go to the person and tell them it was wrong.
One question I have for someone listening who may be like underneath someone that's a really hard person to confront. Maybe their boss is not a receptive person, because it's easier for us to say this because you've always been the leader, the top person, so it's easier to have direct conversations. But what if you have, a middle school youth pastor who reports up to a next gen leader who's actually not a very receptive person?
Yeah.
That's a much harder
It is
conversation.
And he may have learned through the school of hard knocks that going directly to that person does not produce anything good, but more insecurity.
Right.
So there are caveats.
What do you say to that person?
I would say you're probably not going to stay at that church long if that doesn't get better. So go ahead and take the risk. But I think at that point, if you've shared with that person and not gotten a helpful response, at that point, it's not an end around for you to go to that person's supervisor and say, I went to him first. But I would say that this is one of the only ones that is so clear in Scripture. Matthew 18 is so clear. When you have a problem with somebody, you go to your brother. You go to your sister. You don't go talk to 3 people about what they think about what that person did. You go to them. So direct communication, that's first and foremost. Number 2, collaboration over silos. Here's what we mean by that. We share resources. We share ideas. We share people freely. Our departments work together toward one mission, not separate agendas. Obviously, in a church, there's often the missions department, there's the music department, there's the youth department. And even though they're on the same team, there can be a competitive spirit. That competitive spirit has got to be killed. The choir cannot take advantage of the children's ministry, assuming they're always going to provide childcare.
Yeah.
They need to have a servant's heart about it and be willing to be a part of the solution and not just expect that kind of treatment. But the kids ministry needs to be able to step up as they can and are able and provide childcare.
I think typically they do. I mean, I think if anything's hard there, it's that they feel taken advantage of. But in that vein, if it's a very active worship ministry in a church, maybe they could find ways to honor the childcare workers. If they're doing a big program that requires a ton of, volunteer hours, maybe out of the music budget, they pay for pizza for their volunteers, or they do something that kind of just says, we know this is a lot on you guys. We're going to honor RSVP dates. We're not going to call the day before and say, it turns out we have 15 more kids that need to come and you need to find 3 more workers. We have 15 more kids that are going to come, and we're providing these 3 extra workers because we know we missed the deadline.
Yeah.
But I think this one actually gets really tricky in churches that have separate preschool and kids ministries, separate middle school and high school, because, and I have no way to know how your church works, so I don't mean this like there's not one way. I just think it gets tricky because sometimes, I found at Storyline, because we were 0 to 6th grade, a person that was a volunteer, I would just talk to him so much about saying, hey, if a 3-year-old class is not your thing, don't quit. Just come back to me and tell me you don't enjoy that, and let's see if you like older elementary. And there wasn't any jealousy. It wasn't like, man, they're leaving the preschool to go to the elementary group. It was just kind of they all were together. And so it was easier in that way.
There are certain events throughout the year that I think should be all hands on deck, like kids camp, VBS, even big worship nights and stuff where the whole church is gathering, where everybody on staff should feel a sense of ownership. And so I do think there are things that happen throughout the year where you can really breed this thinking of we all work on this together.
Yeah.
Number 3 is invest in community. We intentionally create space to build relationships, celebrate together, and include our families as much as possible. Now, this has been a real challenge at Lifeway, including families. We've only been able to have a couple of events where people could bring their spouse, never their kids. We're not a church.
Right.
But in a church setting, I think it's really healthy when the staff can know who each other's kids are, where there can be events. We learned this the hard way. When we were planning a church, we started to see a lot of staff conflict. And rather than address it directly, you and I decided we would do more fellowship stuff. And it did solve the problem. people just weren't hanging out, building trust, becoming friends.
Having fun and laughing together. Like you have to balance hard with the fun.
And the reason I think it needs to be a value that's in print is that staff will continually find ways to not be there. Oh, we had something come up. I'm going to miss that.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be a priority that people who work on a ministry staff together are spending time together off the record. Number 4, clear leadership, shared value. Here's what we mean. We respect the clear lines of decision-making while ensuring that every voice is heard and valued. This goes back to what you said before. There are people in the organization that are responsible for making the ultimate decision. They cannot lord that over people. Jesus said, do not lord it over people. So you can't remind people constantly that you're the boss. If you have to do that, you're not the boss. Or you're just a bad boss.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people need to sense that when decisions are made, I was at least heard.
So I think this applies very much in marriage as well. People have asked me before about being submissive because my personality is more feisty. And I have said numerous times, I really respect you as the final decision maker in our family, as long as you have heard me, like heard my voice and listened. And where we've come into conflict and where I think churches come into conflict, which kind of ties back into that direct communication, is that if you come to me and say, I listened to what you said, I just feel in my heart that the Lord is leading us in a different direction, then it's very hard for me to argue that, because I can't say for you what the Lord is saying.
Yeah.
And same thing is on a staff, is if you have a next gen leader who's speaking to their staff that says, I so appreciate everything you guys said. I just feel in my heart that this is the direction we're going, and it is going against what you guys say, but that doesn't mean that I don't love and respect you. That goes a lot further. Where you and I have come into conflict is that I've said to you my thoughts, and then like indirectly, I've heard that you've made a decision otherwise, and you never really came back and told me that. And so it's not that it was a wrong decision, it just hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
And so I think in churches, and I mean, that goes both ways. I mean, that's not just you. I'm just saying.
But it meant a lot just to be heard.
Right. And so, I mean, I think this again goes back to the direct communication. And if you have a boss that is not approachable, in my opinion, like that's a behavior that's been allowed to have. Like, who's that person's boss? Who's the head person? Are they afraid of conflict? Because typically it all kind of trickles down from the top.
One of the ways that you can celebrate shared value, meaning everybody has value, is it is awesome when somebody who is new or brand new to the organization has an idea that is fantastic, that no one's thought of, to hold that up and say, hey, we have a new person on our maintenance team who just thought, why don't we fix this part of our building to make it like this? And now it's amazing. It's all because of this person. Every time you can celebrate that, it shows that you don't have to be sitting in the top office to have your ideas heard in this culture. That's a really big deal when that happens.
Can I give you an example of that from One Lifeway?
Sure.
So I feel kind of protective and territorial over One Lifeway. For those of you listening, that's when all the 700 plus employees come in. And Ben and I have typically led the how that runs, what happens on there. But this last one, we were having a thing back at the building afterwards, and we gave creative control to all the different departments. And I remember the media creative team, everybody came up with really cool things. They sent a document with like 4 different ideas, and I wouldn't have come up with a single one of them. They were all good. I mean, all 4 ideas were good.
Very
and I
funny.
remember thinking, okay, I'm going back to John Wesley's Am I Proud? Like, I was being too proud in that situation because there's so many creative people, and we need to like pull from everybody.
That's really good. So real quick, direct communication, collaboration over silos, invest in community, clear leadership, shared value. And number 5, flexibility in roles. We stay open-handed with job titles and responsibilities. We step in and serve where we're needed for the greater mission. This is a big deal for me, that people don't cling to title and responsibility. Well, I'm in charge of this. That's not my job. No, it's actually your job. It's all of our job. You know, one of the things I loved about church planning was when the whole thing was over, everybody rolled cable. Everybody took down chairs. Everybody was the same.
We've talked about that a lot on here. The generalist, not specialist.
Right. And nobody could say, that's below my pay grade.
I gotta go. That's for someone else.
And in any culture where someone is allowed to get away with that, to use their job title as an excuse for not doing any kind of grunt work, that will erode the fullness of the culture. And finally, respect for process. And this is the hardest one for me because I hate process. I want things done today. Why do we need a process?
So you would not have been a good Methodist.
No. That's why I'm a Baptist, not a Methodist. No, we follow proper channels when things get approved. We don't bypass supervisors to get what we want.
Explain what you mean. Why are you bad at this?
Well, when I feel like a process is not necessary, like why do we need to take 3 weeks to get a committee together to do that?
When you feel like it?
Let's just do it. Sometimes process it can bog an organization down, and sometimes it's very wise.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I really think process is better, but occasionally I think through the Holy Spirit's enablement, we should override process. Say, no, we're going to do this. We're going to do it now. But I do think for the most part, people need to know there's a process. So, for example, even with hiring, in many churches, the hiring looks like this. I know a guy. I know a guy I went to seminary with. Super cool guy.
Or he used to work here. He left, but we'd like to have him back.
Right. And it's normally people hire their friends, or they hire people who they're aware of. When if there's a clear HR process where a position can be posted, where people could apply, it often turns up candidates that never would have been in anybody's Rolodex. That dated me. Nobody has a Rolodex. But still, a process is important. So everybody needs to understand what the processes are, and we need to follow the process as much as possible.
I think that one hard thing with that, though, is oftentimes processes don't have clear structure and strategy. That's where things get frustrating. We've been a part of things, then it's kind of like, okay, if they say, we'll know in 4 weeks, that's great. But if it's just an unending, like, we're just going to wait and see where the Spirit moves us, then that gets really frustrating.
Yeah.
So, I do think processes are good. They just have to, but even that makes me feel uncomfortable saying that, because that puts like me in the driver's seat over God's processes.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to say that this should be the timeline, because who's really to know whose timeline it is?
Well, let's do this. Let's paint the opposite picture. If somebody didn't follow any of these, this is what that church culture would look like. Let's just do it in the life of the church, because most people are from the church. So I'm going to describe now a church that loves indirect communication. They don't talk directly to each other. They talk around each other's backs. They send emails not to each other, but to other people about the person. Sounds healthy, doesn't it?
Sounds
Number
good.
2, they don't collaborate. They enjoy their silo. Stay out of my business. Don't speak into my ministry. I have a budget. You have yours. Just do your thing. I'll do mine.
Which feels like sort of a calendar overlap nightmare.
Yes. Number 3, they don't invest in community. It's not prioritized. It's been years since they've hung out outside of church life.
Clarify this, though, because community you're talking about staff community.
Yeah, staff community.
Not community. At first I was like, wait, are you talking about investing in the actual community?
No, this is staff culture.
Community.
So
Okay.
they take no time to get to know each other off the field.
Yep.
Number 4, there's no clear decision-making process. So it's every man for himself.
You get
Nobody
a prize.
actually.
You get a prize.
Everybody gets authority, and nobody really knows who's in charge.
Okay.
Lastly, or number 5, there's rigidity in roles. So your job title and description, your job description are a very big deal. It's right on the front of your door, so people can see what you do here, and don't ask me to do anything outside of what's printed on my door. And then finally, no respect for process. So people just make decisions on a whim. They make them, spurious decisions, and nobody really knows why that was approved or why that wasn't approved.
Did you say spurious?
Spurious.
Is that a word?
We can chat GPT it.
Donnie,
can we
Donnie,
get
check
a quick
in here.
look at
Is spurious
ChatGPT?
a word?
I'll dig in and see what I can find out here.
Spurious a word? Now she's causing me to doubt that.
Chances are, I think you made that up.
I may have made that up.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to distract
but it felt
from.
right. It felt right at the moment. And if I had just kept going.
No, you did keep going. I stopped you because I was like, wait.
Hold on. Yes,
yes.
spurious is a real word.
Give
Oh
it to
my
me.
gosh.
It means false or fake, often seemingly plausible, but actually wrong or deceptive.
Yes.
There you have it.
Well, my apologies,
Well,
Ben.
I don't know that I used it in the right context, though.
You know,
because I was
it might have
using
been it might have been spurious.
Yeah, I was thinking spurious was like something that's impulsive, but that was more like fake,
Okay.
kind of deceptive. So we're both right, Lynley, and we're both wrong.
well, healthy marriages are about repentance.
That's right.
So,
They make impulsive decisions.
okay.
So can you imagine working at a church like that or working in an organization like that? I couldn't. I wouldn't stay long. I'd rather go work at Hardee's.
I'm sure that has no problems
By the
whatsoever.
way, Hardee's is legit. That would sound like a
What
slam
are
on
we even
Hardee's.
talking about? What is Hardee's? What are we talking about?
Hardee's, like
the food place.
like the off-brand McDonald's.
Yeah, Carl's
it?
Jr. if you're out
Carl's
west.
Jr. You don't know what Hardee's
Is it like roast beef?
No, biscuits and burgers.
How do you not know what Hardee's?
How
I
do
grew
you
up
come
in
up
Hardee's.
with Hardee's of all
Because
things?
I grew up on it was either McDonald's or Hardee's. Those are the only two.
All right, whatever. I bet the restaurant, every Hardee's has a very clear chain of command, like being read.
Healthy staff culture.
I bet they're being led by 19-year-old managers who are great.
Absolutely. That's why I want to go work at Hardee's or Carl's Jr., depending on what part of the country you're in. Anyway, that
What
was
is a Carl's Jr.?
It's
Same?
kind of like King Soopers in Kroger.
Okay.
Like if you live in the West, it's
All
called
right.
King Soopers. If you live over here, it's Kroger. Okay, so all that to say, staff culture is really important. What would be your final comments on this for somebody who's out there and like, yeah, we need to address staff culture? What would motivate them to do that?
Well, the thing that makes me sad for this conversation is that probably a lot of our listeners who are hearing this realize this is the case in their church, but they can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And so it feels easy to say, hey, this is what it should be when they're probably stuck and can't change it. So, I mean, I do think it's just a matter of prayer and really releasing it to the Lord to say, is there anything I can do? Is because this culture will not change, are you releasing me from this call and calling me to somewhere else?
It's so hard.
So, I don't want to say this so flippantly, like, well, this is how you should do it. And I also don't want to say it as if we got all this right. Like we messed up a lot of things. I mean, I think we ran a staff ragged at Storyline, just going. And so I don't want to come across like, man, we have
No,
figured.
these are ideals. These are things to aim for.
And these are things that we have figured out. But I mean, I think even now, we've been here almost 6 years. We would look back at the early Storyline days, a decade ago and think we didn't handle that right. So I only get fearful that people listen to this and think, A, we can never achieve that, or B, man, they never did anything wrong. And I don't want to leave the audience, the listener thinking that.
Let's answer the question though. Like, what is the right thing to do when you're in an unhealthy staff culture? It's not unlike people who say, well, a new pastor has come. He's changed everything. A lot of people have left. We feel led to stay. There's no right answer.
Mm-mm.
There's no wrong answer. I mean, sometimes the Holy Spirit leads people to stay and, work through the change. Other times people feel a release to go, and this is a new season to start elsewhere. I think the same is true of staff. I mean, I know guys who've served on church staffs that they have a lot of frustration with, but it's their home.
Right.
And they don't feel called anywhere else.
And they love the people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing I think that we're overlooking here is that the church is a people. And so many times you can overlook a broken staff value because you're just really getting, like, maybe they're really healthy in the community, like the actual community. And they love that. Or maybe they have, a thriving soup kitchen type ministry. I mean, so I don't want to say that if these are not all in line that you're miserable, because there may be happy people.
Yeah.
Who just love their small group systems or whatever.
I would just encourage anyone that's out there, you're a pastor or pastor's wife, if you don't have a set of staff values, to make them.
Yeah.
We made them at a Mexican restaurant while we were waiting for the health
department.
You can do this too. It's really just a matter of sitting down and describing, like, what would an ideal kind of culture feel like?
Yeah.
And then at least we have something to aim for and to repent when we're not hitting it.
Right.
And it's a guide. So I would strongly encourage you. We also have an episode on family values that's very similar to this, that we believe in, forming family values. So take a look at that episode. We'll drop that in the show notes if you want to go and look at the family episode. So, well, that's it for 10 and 10. We got a couple other things this summer. We're going to be dropping a sermon that I recently did. So excited to share that with you. And we also have
A crossover episode.
a crossover episode. Thank you.
Yep.
Of Chuck Peters.
Yep.
And he's a dynamic, unbelievable podcaster, our next gen leader at Lifeway. So I think you're going to enjoy that too. So enjoy your summer, everyone. And
We'll be back in the fall.
we'll talk to you soon. The Glass House is a production of Lifeway, executive produced by Angie Elkins, edited and engineered by Donnie Gordon. Show notes and social media by Nikki Ogden, photography, Emily Bergeron and Bailey Watling. Recorded at the Lifeway Podcast Studio in Brentwood,